3 haunted houses. 3 experiences so terrifying they'll crawl under your skin and stay there. From a psychological nightmare that blurs the line between reality and fear, to an ancient dungeon where the past refuses to stay buried, to a pitch-black factory that feeds on your screams. These aren't just haunted attractions. They're experiences that will haunt you forever. Welcome to the 3 most spine-chilling haunted house experiences on Earth. Our first stop takes us deep into the Tennessee woods, to a place that's been called the most extreme haunted experience in the world. It's not just a haunted house, it's a psychological experiment. This is McCamey Manor. There's no entry fee, just a bag of dog food as a donation. But there's a catch. You have to sign a 40-page waiver, undergo a health check, and acknowledge that what's about to happen could leave you changed forever. Unlike any other haunted attraction, McCamey Manor doesn't rely on ghosts or monsters. It preys on your mind, your fears, your endurance, your limits. Once you step through those gates, you're no longer a guest. You're prey. Participants are pushed through hours of torment, locked in cages, submerged in water, forced to confront their deepest phobias. Every cry, every plea to stop is recorded. Russ McCamey, the man behind the madness, says it's all about mental toughness, a survival challenge disguised as horror. But for many, it becomes something far darker. Only a handful of people have ever made it through. Most tap out within minutes, and when they leave, they say the real nightmare begins later and in their dreams. So, would you dare sign the waiver? Because once you do, McCamey Manor owns your fear. Our next stop isn't hidden in the woods, but deep beneath the bustling streets of London. Here, history itself has become the monster. Welcome to the London Dungeon, a twisted time machine through Britain's bloodiest past. Jack the Ripper, Sweeney Todd, the Plague. Every chapter of horror that history tried to forget lives here. But the London Dungeon isn't your typical haunted house. This is immersive storytelling at its most macabre. Actors whisper in your ear, shadows move just out of sight, and the scent of mildew and fear lingers in the air. You don't just watch history, you feel it crawling under your skin. Picture this. You're seated in a dim barber shop. The faint hum of a blade behind you. A voice whispers, "Have a seat, dearie," just a little off the top. That's Sweeney Todd. You feel the chair tilt back and your heart pounding, and suddenly, you're falling into the darkness below. Every corridor tells a story soaked in blood and fear. The executioner's chamber, the torture room, the plague doctor's lab. Each scene feels more real than the last. The air is thick, the sound of distant moans echoing through brick walls. But the scariest part of the London Dungeon isn't the actors or the effects. It's realizing that every event here actually happened. These are the ghosts of history, and they remember. Our final destination takes us to Niagara Falls, Canada, home of the Nightmare Fear Factory, the oldest running haunted attraction in North America. And it's famous, for one thing, fear itself. Unlike the chaos of McCamey Manor or the storytelling of the dungeon, Nightmare Fear Factory is pure simplicity. Pitch-black corridors, hidden actors, and a promise that once you enter, you're never truly alone. The moment the door closes behind you, your vision is gone. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You move by touch. The walls cold and damp beneath your fingers. Every sound becomes amplified. Footsteps that aren't yours, whispers that don't belong to anyone nearby. They say the darkness here has a presence. Some guests swear they feel something brushing past them. Others claim they hear their names whispered. And just when you think it's over, a blinding light hits, revealing you're surrounded by masked figures. The Fear Factory even has a chicken list. Over 170,000 visitors who couldn't make it through and shouted the safe word, nightmare. Once you do, the lights come on, the actors step back, and you're escorted out. But that doesn't stop the rumors. Locals say the building used to be a coffin factory in the early 1900s. Workers claim to hear banging from closed coffins, and one night, a man named Abraham Mortis fell into one and was sealed alive by accident. They say his spirit still roams the halls searching for a way out. True or not, one thing's certain. Everyone who leaves this place looks back at least once, because they all feel something watching them. What is it about haunted houses that draws us in? We pay to scream, to be terrified, to lose control, if only for a few minutes. Maybe it's because fear reminds us we're alive. It's the oldest emotion we know, the pulse that once kept our ancestors safe from the dark. In places like McCamey Manor, fear becomes a challenge. In the London dungeon, it's a story, a mirror of our past. And in the Nightmare Fear Factory, it's pure primal instinct. 3 experiences, 3 reflections of what it means to face our demons. And when you walk out, your heart racing, your palms sweating, you realize that the scariest part of all isn't what's inside those haunted houses. It's what those places awaken inside you. So which one would you dare to enter? McCamey Manor, the real-life nightmare? The London dungeon, where history bleeds through the walls? Or the Fear Factory, where the darkness breathes beside you? Tell me in the comments which one you'd survive. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because next time, we're going somewhere even darker. I've always been drawn to the kind of places most people avoid. Not haunted houses, not ghost tours. I'm talking about those forgotten roads at the edge of nowhere. The ones that don't appear on maps anymore. Last fall, I decided to film a documentary on rural legends, small-town superstitions, strange disappearances, things whispered over gas station counters. That's how I found Hollow Creek, or maybe it found me. It started when I got lost. I was driving through the Appalachians, miles from any signal. My GPS had frozen hours ago, and my phone battery was crawling toward zero. The last town I passed, if you could call it that, was just a general store and a diner with a sign that said, "Eat." The road narrowed to a single lane, trees pressing closer, their branches reaching over me like arms. Then, as if out of nowhere, I saw a wooden sign on the side of the road. Hollow Creek, 5 miles. I almost laughed. I hadn't heard of it before. I thought it would be a good spot to film some B-roll before nightfall. But the road twisted and twisted deeper into the hills. Fog rolled in, thick, silvery, clinging to the windshield. That's when I noticed the houses, small, old, scattered along the roadside. No lights, no cars, just shadows in the windows. One of them had a child's tricycle tipped over in the yard, rusted red and broken. Another had its front door hanging open, moving just slightly with the wind. And yet, there was no wind. When I finally reached the town, it didn't look abandoned. Not completely. The buildings leaned, the wood grayed with age, but the main street still stood. There was a gas pump, an old post office, and a sign that read, Hollow Creek General Store. I parked, grabbed my camera, and started filming. Everything felt heavy. The silence, the air, even my footsteps. You know how sound travels in empty places? Here, it didn't. I went inside the store. Dust covered everything. Shelves were still stocked, cans of soup, bottles of soda, decades old. And in the back corner, a single radio. It was on. Static at first. Then a voice, faint and distant. "You shouldn't have come this far." I froze. The air smelled like rain and something metallic, like rust or blood. The radio crackled again, and this time the voice sounded closer. "He's already seen you." I turned it off and backed out of the store. Outside it was darker than before. The fog had thickened. I could see my car across the street, but the driver's side door was open. I knew I had closed it. I told myself I was overreacting, that maybe I hadn't shut it properly. I started the engine, but the headlights wouldn't come on. Then through the fog, I saw someone standing in the middle of the road, tall, still, wearing what looked like an old raincoat. I honked. Nothing. The figure didn't move. Then it turned its head, slowly, toward me. I didn't wait. I threw the car in reverse and hit the gas. But when I looked in the rearview mirror, the road behind me was gone. Just trees, no path, no tire tracks. I slammed on the brakes, and when I looked forward again, the figure was gone. I spent the night in the car, or I tried to. I kept hearing things outside. Soft tapping on the windows like fingers. Sometimes whispering, a low voice I couldn't quite make out. Just before dawn, I must have drifted off because I woke to the sound of footsteps circling the car. When I looked out, nothing. But on the hood, someone had drawn a symbol in the dust, a circle with 3 vertical lines through it. I wiped it off, turned the key, and drove. For hours, the road twisted endlessly through the woods. No intersections, no landmarks, just the same trees, the same fog, looping forever. Eventually, I came to a clearing. In the middle stood a white house, small, 2 stories, its windows black. I don't know why, but I stopped. Inside, the air was colder than outside. The floorboards creaked like they were breathing. There were pictures on the wall, old photographs, black and white. Families standing in front of the same house. Except in every photo, the father's face was blurred. In the kitchen, I found another radio. It was already on. "You shouldn't be here." I've been inside a lot of haunted houses. Most of them are nothing more than fog machines and actors hiding behind fake walls. But 3 places changed how I look at fear forever. What I'm about to tell you still keeps me awake some nights. Believe me or don't, but if you ever see the same doors I did, walk the other way. The Black Rose Manor. The first was deep in the backwoods of Pennsylvania. Locals called it Black Rose Manor. I went there with 2 friends to film a Halloween special. The place looked perfect. Cobwebs on chandeliers, wallpaper curling off the walls, the smell of rot and old perfume. We set up lights in the hallway. The moment they powered on, every bulb flickered once and died. My camera battery, fully charged, dropped to 0. Then from upstairs a faint music box began to play. None of us brought it. The tune slowed, fading like a heartbeat running out of time. We followed the sound into a dusty bedroom. A cracked mirror leaned against the wall, its surface fogged. I wiped it clean and saw a girl behind me, pale, smiling. When I turned, the room was empty. The mirror shattered on its own, slicing my hand. I still have the scar, a thin white line shaped like a rose stem. Later, reviewing footage, we saw the girl's reflection moving closer to the camera. Her lips were whispering something we couldn't hear. The Hollow Creek Lab. Months later, I was invited to test an experimental horror attraction in Nevada, the Hollow Creek Lab. It was inside a decommissioned research facility. and the creators bragged that their AI adapted to each guest's deepest fear. That should have been my first warning. They strapped a sensor band on my wrist and told me to walk the corridors alone. As soon as the door shut, the temperature dropped. At first it was clever. Lights dimmed when my pulse rose, footsteps echoed when I turned corners. Then the speakers whispered my name. My actual name in my own voice. I ripped off the wristband, but the voice kept talking. Every door was locked. The hallway stretched longer, bending like the building was breathing. Ahead, a screen flickered to life. "Welcome back, subject." I ran until I found an emergency exit. Cold desert air hit me like water. Staff said the system had crashed hours earlier. No sensors active. But the server log showed a new file, time-stamped during my run. It was labeled Session 2. I was the first tester. The widows haunt the ear. Last one was in Louisiana, a collapsing farmhouse called the Widow's Haunt. I only wanted to film the local legend about a woman who waited 50 years for her husband to return from the river. The townspeople warned me not to go after dark. Of course, I went after dark. The house leaned to one side, rain tapping on the tin roof. Inside, the smell of wet dust and lilies filled the air. In the parlor, a rocking chair faced the window. It moved slowly, though the air was still. Beside it sat a photograph of a man in a riverboat uniform. The glass over his face was cracked right through his eyes. I started recording. Then I heard it, soft crying upstairs. Halfway up the steps, the sound stopped. At the top hung a mirror covered by black cloth. Without thinking, I lifted a corner. My reflection stared back, and behind me stood a veiled woman in black, her hand resting on my shoulder. The mirror went dark. When I turned, the hall was empty, but the smell of lilies burned my throat. I bolted outside. At the gate, something brushed my hand, cold, soft, almost like a farewell. When I looked back, the upstairs curtain moved. The rocking chair had stopped. Aftermath, that was 3 years ago. Since then, I've tried to forget. But sometimes when I edit late at night, the monitors flicker. A faint melody plays, the same tune from that broken music box. Sometimes my reflection on the screen moves a fraction too slow. And once, while reviewing footage, a line flashed across the frame for a single second. Session 3 in progress. I don't visit haunted houses anymore. But lately I've noticed something impossible. Everywhere I go, mirrors, camera lenses, hotel windows, there's a faint outline standing behind me. Sometimes it looks like a girl in white. Sometimes a shadow in a lab coat. Sometimes a woman in black. They never stay long. They just wait, silent, until the lights go out. So if you ever feel someone standing behind you while you're watching this, don't turn around. Just keep looking at the screen, because maybe they followed me here too.